Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a My 2 Cent video for this week. My 2 Cent Nintendo / gaming video for the week of February 5th to February 11th, which, happy birthday to me, though. I'll be, when this video comes up on Saturday, I will be 41 years old, to be exact. Yep. I'm getting old and all, and I'm starting to see some like gray hair and all that stuff. So yeah, I'm getting pretty old though. Because of that, I'm not going to do another video, not a review or anything like that this week though, mostly because it's my birthday and some other stuff here and there that I want to do this week and all that stuff. So I'll probably have something done next week, maybe my top 5 games for the Xbox systems, the PlayStation, and the Nintendo Switch of 2022, and including multi-platform. So I might do something a little bit different, but for this week though, I'm not going to have another video review or anything like that. Again, it's because it will be my birthday and all. But anyway, we got 4 stories to cover for this week, though, that caught my attention, including the Rumor Direct actually happening, though. So we will take a look at what I liked and what I didn't like of what was shown during the Nintendo Direct, though. I do want to talk about some of the controversy surrounding Hogwarts Legacy, though. I do want to give a bit of a warning. Some of the stuff I'll talk about might contain my political views, and I'm aware not everyone will 100% agree with everything that I say about this. Some might not, though. I also want to take a look at Nintendo releasing their financial reports, though, and the response to how some people feel like this might be the last year for the Nintendo Switch and all. And last but not least, I also want to talk about basically what seems to be the live service stuff bubble may have burst with some latest live service games going down, though. If you're interested in where I got the source of these informations, links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube, though. But before we get started, I like to do what I like to call the quick My 2 Cents. Stories that kind of caught my attention, but I'm not going to go into a huge amount of details and everything like that. The first one has to do with a trailer that was shown up for Hot Wheels Rift Rally. Basically, the best way to sum this up, though, based on the trailer, is that it's basically, remember that augmented reality Mario Kart? I think it's basically, where you can use Mario and Luigi and race them around the tracks in your home and everything like that. This is pretty much what this Hot Wheels Rift Rally thing is. It's basically made by the same folks who did, I think it was the Circuit, Mario Kart Super Circus, whatever. I apologize if I got the name wrong. So it's made by the same folks and all. I mean, it looks interesting though, but whether it will catch on or have the same oomph like the Mario Kart one did, that remains to be seen though. We also learned that Nintendo is raising its employees' pay up 10% in Japan and everything like that. Certainly not a bad thing at all. It's nice to see folks are getting a pay raise and everything like that. I'm hoping that the pay raise is something that would help employees, meet ends meets and all that stuff, though. Meet ends meets and all that. There are times when I'll criticize Nintendo, and believe me, Nintendo is not immune to any criticisms here and there, but there are times I will applaud them, though, and I certainly think this is definitely a good thing and all. We also learned that a random YouTuber has decided to recreate the original classic Zelda in Minecraft, but with no mods indeed, and based on what the video has shown so far, I will say this is kind of impressive though, and I gotta give this person credit though. Again, I'm not a Minecraft person, so Minecraft really doesn't interest me as much though, but nevertheless, I still think this is very creative though, and all that. We also learned that the folks from Moon Studios, the ones that did Ori and the Will and the Wasp and Ori and the Blind Forest, has sort of talked somewhat about their next game. They refer to Ori, the Will of the Wasp, as basically Will Wasp and the Blind Forest as their Mario. They said their next title will be like their Zelda, though. Now, what kind of approach they'll take on with that is beyond me, though. It could be similar to Breath of the Wild. It could be similar to some of the old school Zelda games or something completely different. We'll have to wait and see what emerges from this. To be exact, though, right now we don't know what the game is going to be and all. Although I do remember hearing that Private Division, the folks who published the Outer World game, supposedly will be publishing this game. So we'll have to wait and see what comes out of this. We also learned that a U.S. judge has dismissed the Joy-Con drift lawsuit that some parents had filed against Nintendo. Mostly this has to do with saying that the parents knew when purchasing the Joy-Cons, and all that, saying user agreement to Nintendo's licensing agreement, though. It's sort of, this whole saga has kind of gotten sort of back and forth and all that stuff, though. It'll be very interesting to see if the folks file an appeal on this or not, though, so it'll be very interesting to see how this goes. I do hope that whatever Nintendo's successor to the Switch may be, whether it's a Switch 2 or something else, though, that they address this issue with the Joy-Con drift and all, because while I haven't fully experienced Joy-Con drift or anything like that, I don't deny the fact that it does exist, as we have seen some folks have experienced Joy-Con drift. So I'm not under any illusion Joy-Con drift doesn't exist or anything like that. I don't deny the fact that it does exist. We also learned that UK authorities are now proposing a deal to Microsoft in terms of them excluding or selling off Call of Duty in order for the Activision Blizzard deal to go through and all. This is sort of a complete opposite to what Microsoft has done, which is they've offered a 10-year deal to especially Steam, to even Nintendo, to allow Call of Duty to be on their system. It's unclear whether or not whether Microsoft will agree to this or not, though. We know that they're preparing to take on the FTC, which has filed a lawsuit against them. And it's also worth pointing out that we have several analysts and investors who have come out who claim to think that this deal will probably go through, though. Bear in mind, one of those is Michael Patchard, and yes, Michael Patchard has a history of getting certain things wrong, to be exact, though. I remember hearing him make a comment how Nintendo should go third-party while they release their next system following the Wii U's failure and all. But at the same time, he is an investor, he is an analyst, though, so he might see something completely different than what is going on right now with the back and forth between Microsoft, Activision, Blizzard, and regulators, to be exact, though. Many still believe the deal will probably go through. I'm still one of them who believes most likely it will, though. We'll see if any more concessions or anything happens, though. So we'll have to wait and see what is going on, to be exact, with this deal and all. We also learned that a college campus had to cancel school over basically what some might view as a poor joke of basically, though, and this has to do with the upcoming Nintendo Direct, the Nintendo Direct that happened, because one person tweeted out that this was sort of the event of the lifetime, and what happened was some basically took this as there was going to be a campus shooting or school shooting, since sadly we've been hearing some of that on the news lately, though. The person who wrote the joke, though, basically kind of realized it was a bad joke and kind of apologized for it, though. While I can understand some people may view it as being overreacting, though, in this day and age, there are a lot of things that some folks can put on the internet that can, well, we've seen people respond to it. Like, for example, the misinformation about the 2020 election that led to the January 6th insurrection is one example, not the only example, but certainly one example, to be exact. So yes, one could argue some authorities overreacted, but one can also argue that in this day and age, and given some of the school shootings we've seen so far, you can see why some people kind of view that as something like this was going to happen. And to some extent, it might have been a bad joke and all. And in the movie and TV part of the My 2 Cent video, though, we also learned that Bob Iger, who recently came back as the CEO of Disney, is considering the possibility of possibly selling their share of Hulu, though, which would be very interesting if that happens. And I wonder what that would be to those who basically spent money on the Disney bundle, which had, Hulu Plus, Disney Plus, and ESPN Plus. How that's could fly in the face with them, though. Again, he has mentioned nothing is taken off the table. Some people don't think it will happen, but we'll have to wait and see if it does happen, though. We also learned with Disney, though, they're reorganizing and unfortunately laying off some some employees, though, despite so-called soaring profits for the company. To be exact, though, a little bit unfortunate for those employees, though. Hopefully, they're able to find jobs, and it raises a lot of questions, not only for tech companies that are laying off employees, but the whole laying off employees while reporting profits and everything like that. It kind of reminds me of the situation we saw with Activision Blizzard, where despite making good profits, they didn't make all the money in the world and decided to let people lay off several employees while the CEOs give themselves a bonus and everything like that. So yeah, I'm a little very much mixed on this, to be exact. And last but not least, it seems as though the very first episode of The Mandalorian will make its television debut, though. Supposedly this will be just to get people to basically who watch it, asking them to like sign up to Disney Plus if they want to watch the show and all. They did this with Star Wars Andor as well, so it'll be very interesting to see if people sign up if this encourages them to sign up to Disney Plus or not, though. Okay, with the quick My 2 cent the quick My 2 cent part now done, we'll get started with our first story, and this one has to do with basically live service games and all. Now, one of the things that we have basically seen a lot of, basically a push from a lot of these AAA developers and others, is the push for these live service type of games, especially from companies like Ubisoft as well. Basically, in terms of the whole recurring user spending, asking you to log in every day and all that stuff, and spend money on what would be either cosmetics to, loot boxes and all that kind of stuff. It's somewhat of a controversy to a certain degree, but for a lot of developers, or a lot of these big time developers, it's, moolah, bringing in the money and everything like that. To be exact, though, and 2020 also saw a lot of somewhat saw a lot of people, stay at home because of COVID and all, and that's where I think a lot of folks were trying to earn, a lot, with the whole live service and all. But at the same time, live service games are somewhat difficult to try to convince people to come to get into to a certain degree. We've seen stories of how some folks have spent a lot of money on microtransactions and loot boxes to not get anything in return, or a refund or anything like that, to the fact that I just can't see how you can log in every day, especially if there's stuff that you want to do. And time and again, we see some of those who push the live service talk about single player games are dead, but then when you look at games like Jedi Fallen Order, to other games like God of War Ragnarok, to Super Mario Odyssey and The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, those games continue to sell very well despite not being a live service type of a game, and kind of defeats that whole argument and all that stuff. Well, recently we have been seeing more and more live service games kind of get shut down and all. We've seen this last year with games like Platinum Square Enix's failed Babylon Fall, to recently Square Enix and Crystal Dynamics Marvel's Avengers game. And it seems to be more and more live service games are starting to shut down, with some recent ones, and has kind of raised the question has the live service game bubble burst and all that stuff. In an article from Engage, though, it reads that, quote, "It's a rough time for fans of several live service games, which are titles designed to be constantly updated for a long time. A bunch are shutting down in the near future, and Crossfire X and Knockout City are among the latest to join the list. Crossfire X is the Xbox console version of the massive popular tactical shooter Crossfire. After some delays, it arrived less than a year ago, but it wasn't a hit with critics, or more critically to the public, though. It's been dubbed like one of the worst reviewed Xbox games, to point that out, though. Developer Smilegate has stopped selling the game. The multiplayer component is free to play, but the Remedy developed single player campaign is not, and it's offering refunds for purchases made in the last 2 weeks. It will shut off Crossfire X servers on May 18th. Knockout City, meanwhile, is a fun dodgeball brawler that debuted in 2021. The game went free to play last year when developer Bean Studio parted ways with EA to self-publish it. At last, Knockout City is shutting down too. Its 9th season will be the final one, and the servers will close on June 6th. On a positive note, Vane will roll out an option for PC players to run the game on private servers, so great for PC users and all. Smilegate and VELAN are far from alone in closing down live service games recently. Meta's Ready at Dawn Studios said this week it will shutter Echo VR, a zero-gravity frisbee title previously known as Echo Arena, on August 1st. It's also emerged over the last week or so that Apex Legends Mobile and Battlefield Mobile, Rumbleverse, KRAYTA, and others are closing shop. Development is ending on Bad for Blood and Marvel's Avengers as well, but Turtle Rock Studios and Crystal Dynamics will keep the respective servers online, although it's pointing out that with Marvel's Avengers you won't be able to supposedly not buy the game or anything like that. And, you know, this is an unfortunate and yet sad example of a lot of these live service games. They encourage you to stay, you know, engaged with it and all, but when you don't have people engaged with it or you don't do anything to update it, though, it makes it very hard for people to stay engaged to it. I mean, look at Babylon Fall, for example, and look at what happened with Marvel's Avengers. It shows just because you have a popular brand doesn't automatically guarantee you success in any way. And this is sort of one of the reasons why I've been kind of turned off with a lot of these live service games, though. You don't really have control over exactly when the servers are working or not. And I mean, it does sound like people are kind of excuse me, sorry, that people are kind of burned out with a lot of these live service games and everything like that. And it kind of throws into questions Sony's strategy of them wanting to do a lot of these live service games and whether or not that is a smart move on their part or not, though. I mean, yes, there are some like Destiny 2, Fortnite, Players Unknown, Battleground, Warframe, and Call of Duty Warzone that seem to be continuing to do very well, but it shows that it also shows that not every game needs to be a live service. Some games can still do very well without having a live service functionality and everything like that. So we'll see if this changes developers' mind on live services or anything like that. Although I do remember hearing that when Dragon Age 4, EA wanted to turn it into a live service, but after what they saw what happened with Anthem, they went back to just a single-player experience. And, you know, it shows that, you know, despite the claim that live services are the way of the future, it shows that single-player games people still want to play those type of games and all. So overall, though, it does look like sounds like the live service bubble is starting to burst and all. Whether this changes directions for some of these developers or big-time developers or not remains to be seen. But one thing for certain is that it's very, unless you have some sort of hook the way Destiny 2 or Warzone, Call of Duty Warzone had, or Warframe and all, it's very hard to convince people to basically get into live service, especially if you put in, you know, the microtransactions, the cosmetics, the loot box, to having to log in every day and to make sure you make sure that your online is spot on and everything like that. So it's one of many reasons why I've been turned off to live services games and all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get to part 2. And this one has to do with Nintendo releasing their financial report. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of my 2 cent video, and for this one we're going to be taking a look at Nintendo's financial report. And this one, and as you know, Nintendo will release their financial report of where things stand and everything like that. And there is some good news and of course some bad news depending on if you're like an investor or anything like that. First, let's start off with the good news, to be exact, is that it has now been reported that Nintendo Switch has officially surpassed the Game Boy and the PS4. That's right, the Nintendo Switch has done that. In their latest financial earnings, though, it has been reported that in terms of hardware, they have sold 122.55 million units, and in software, they have sold 994.30 million units. So, very impressive for them indeed, though. They have yet to surpass the Nintendo's DS, which on the hardware side is still at basically at 154.02 million, so they have yet to surpass the hardware. But in terms of software, yeah, they have surpassed that, since software-wise, it's at 948.76 million. So they have one more milestone to go if they want the Switch to really be a very successful system for them, though, and that is basically the fact that they need to somehow overtake the Nintendo DS, though. But still, very impressive for this system, indeed, though. But at the same time, it does kind of put Nintendo in a very interesting spot to see what do they do as far as a successor to the Nintendo Switch, and how do they approach this, and can they learn from the mistakes that were made with the Wii U when they went from the Wii to the Wii U kind of a situation. So that kind of remains to be seen in regards of that kind of situation. In terms of the top selling games so far, though, in terms of selling units, we have the usual ones, to be exact, though. We have basically Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at 52 million sold, Animal Crossing New Horizon at 41.59 million units sold, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate at 30.44 million units sold, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild at 29 million units sold. We have Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shields combined with both, though, 25.68 million units sold. We have Super Mario Odyssey basically at 25.12 million units sold. We have, the latest entry in the Pokemon series, Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet, both of them together. Despite some of the controversies with the visuals and everything like that, it seems to have managed to sell 20.61 million units sold. We have Super Mario Party at 18.79 million units sold. We have Ring Fit Adventure at 15.22 million units sold. And we have Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee combined together at 15.7 million units sold, though. As far as other games they pointed out, though, they did point out that basically Splatoon 3, the latest entry in the Splatoon series, has managed to pass with over 10 million sales in 3 months, though. According to an article from Nintendo Life, it says that Nintendo has revealed that Splatoon 3 has sold over 10 million units up to the December 31st, 2022. The company shared the results in the latest financial report, which comes to third quarter, and excuse me, and of the third quarter of the fiscal year, and at March 2023, though. To put it in content, though, in context, Splatoon 2 reached 10.71 million units in June 2020, almost 3 years after the game's release, and as of March 2022, the game has sold 13 million units worldwide. So not bad for Splatoon 3 and third entry into the series, though. Something tells me that excuse me, coffee there and all. Something tells me that Splatoon 3 has a very good chance to be kind of a stable franchise for Nintendo and all, much like how we are starting to see what with the Fire Emblem series, to be exact, though. So definitely very good for Splatoon 3, though. It'll be very interesting to see what the future holds for that series, though. But I have a feeling there's a good chance it will be a stable franchise for Nintendo. As for Bayonetta 3, they've updated it and have pointed out that Bayonetta 3 has joined the latest financial reports, and it says its game has just squeaked over the line with 1.4 million units sold, somewhat passing over the 1 million mark. They mentioned that launch early-ish into quarter 3. Those sales figures are pretty decent for the Umbra, which is third outing. The Switch version of Bayonetta 2 managed to hit 1.4 million units by December 2021, while it struggled to reach even 400K on the Wii U, though, which honestly that isn't really surprising considering the fact that the Wii U wasn't really a success for Nintendo and all. The first Bayonetta has seen multiple releases, first launch on the PS3 and Xbox 360, though, and managed to get 2 million copies between those systems and all. And it's also reported that Nintendo is saying that digital sales now account for roughly half of Nintendo's software sales in fiscal year 2023. So I wouldn't be surprised if they lean on the digital sales a bit more and all that stuff, which I know some folks may or may not. I'm more of a physical person, but I can see why they're leaning more and more toward the digital sales. However, despite that, and this is where the bad news comes in, apparently their share prices kind of take a hit following the latest financial report and all. Now, do I think this means Nintendo is doomed or anything like that? No, I don't think it means that they're doomed or anything like that, though. I mean, we've seen their stock share prices take a hit before in the past, and it hasn't really had a huge impact, whether it's their E3 presentation that they've done or not. So I wouldn't consider this the end of the world for Nintendo, but very impressive for games like Splatoon 3 and Bayonetta 3 doing very well for Nintendo and all that. I am definitely looking forward to the upcoming Bayonetta Origins, Cereza, and the Lost Demons, and so forth. And it's really, really interesting to see how the Switch has really surpassed now the PS4 and all. I think the big question is what does this mean for the system's future going forward, though? We know Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is the next big release for it, the Nintendo Switch, and some are speculating that this may be the last big release for Nintendo, as some are saying that they are gearing up for possibly the successor. However, it's worth pointing out Nintendo did come out saying that the Switch isn't dead or anything like that, though. And I still think it kind of puts Nintendo in a very awkward position. Obviously, the Switch continues to do very well for them, though, and they don't want to kill off the golden goose or anything like that. But at the same time, it does, however, bring up the fact that we're at a point where should we start talking about a successor for the Nintendo Switch and all at this moment. I mean, the system is like, let's see, 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 2023. It's about 6 years old and all. 2024 will be like 7 years to be exact. So I do wonder, are we at a point where basically we may have to start seeing Nintendo to start talking about the successor for the Nintendo Switch? And if so, I still think most likely they'll stick with the hybrid concept, because I think it will still be extremely difficult for them to go back to having a console and a handheld. I just think that would be a very, very hard sell for Nintendo and all. So overall, I would say very impressive numbers. To be exact, though, nice to see Bayonetta 3 do very well. Love the game and all that stuff. And it's nice to see Splatoon 3 also do very well indeed, though. So right now, things are looking good for the Nintendo Switch and everything like that. It's going to be very interesting to see how 2023 plays out. And it will be very interesting if Nintendo truly starts talking about the successor for the Switch, whether it's sometime in 2023 or in 2024 or beyond. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 3. And this one has to do with the controversy surrounding Hogwarts Legacies and all. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of my 2 cent video. And before I begin talking about part 3 or this segment, though, I do want to give a full warning out for those who may choose to watch this part or not. The following segment that I will be talking about may contain some political views, particularly mine, to be exact, though. I am fully aware that not everyone is going to agree with this in any way. Some might or some may not, though, and that is fine. I'm not expecting everyone's going to agree with everything I say all the time, though, but I will stand behind my views on this, no if and maybes or but. And if you wish not to watch part 3 of my 2 cent video, feel free to skip this part. There will be chapters in the description if you want to skip this part, or if you watch the beginning of the video, I do put up a timestamp. So if you don't want to watch this part, though, you don't have to if you don't want to, though. Feel free to skip this part if you want to. So anyway, with that out of the way, I will be talking about with part 3 will be about Hogwarts Legacy. Now, this was one of the big game coming out from WB Games and Avalanche Studio, which is known for doing several titles, including the Just Cause series and all. And well, and while the game certainly has gotten attention, though, it's also gotten attention for some of the controversies. And this has to do with comments made by the creator of the Harry Potter series, J.K. Rowling's, though, that has sort of brought up and pushed for supposedly a boycott and everything like that. But to give you a quick rundown and the cliff notes on it, though, this article from Dextroid, Dexerto, kind of sums it up, though, at least from what they are writing about it, though. So anyway, according to the article, it reads that, quote, the main reason people, or folk, depending on who you're asking, though, are boycotting Hogwarts Legacy is because of its association with J.K. Rowling. The Harry Potter author has been accused for making transphobic comments on multiple occasions over the past few years. LGBTQ Media Charity GLAAD has a pretty extensive list of all the comments that have been made by Rowling, but the main point of concern is an essay published by the author on June 10th, 2020, that lists 5 reasons to be worried about the new trans activism. In this essay, Rowling states that she was concerned about the huge explosion in young women wishing to transition, and also about being the increased numbers who seem to be detransitioning, though. She's also brought up the bathroom debate, which has received plenty of media attention in recent years. Quote, when you throw open the door of a bathroom and changing room to any man who believes or feels he's a woman, and I've said gender confirmation certification may now be granted without any needs of surgery or hormones, then you open the door to any and all men who wish to come inside. This is the simple truth, she wrote. In response to J.K. Rowling's comments, LGBTQ plus charity Mermaids issue a statement where they call on Harry Potter author to meet with transgendered young people and listen to them with an open mind and an open heart before speaking about them. We do not consider it a crime for women to express concern, they wrote. We do, however, consider it abusive and damage when people conflict trans women with male sexual predators, input sexual criminality to trans identity, suggest that support of a trans child is parental homophobia and misogyny, and share uncollaborated and inaccurate information which severely damages the lives of trans and non-binary people, though. Rowling has also faced backlash for her 2020 novel Troubled Blood, published under the presumably Robert Galbraith, which features a cisgender male serial killer who dressed up as a woman to lure victims. Mermaids called this a long-standing and somewhat tired trope responsible for the demoralization of small groups of people. On other occasions, Rowling has liked a tweet that refers to trans women as men in dress, which her representative defended as a clumsy and middle-aged moment, and tweeted big loves to you to Caroline Farrow, who Pink News has called an anti-trans, anti-gay, anti-abortion activist. Several cast members of the Harry Potter movie have spoken out in support of trans communities in the wake of Rowling's comment, including Daniel Radcliffe, Rupert Grint, Emma Watson, Bonnie White, and Eddie Redmayne. To all the people who now feel their experience of the book has been tarnished or diminished, I am deeply sorry for the pain these comments have caused you. Daniel Radcliffe said in a statement via the Trevor Project, I hope that you don't entirely lose what was valuable in these stories to you. The Harry Potter franchise has also been accused of perpetrating harmful anti-Semitic tropes, which, in the way it describes goblins, something that has now received extra scrutiny as Hogwarts Legacy will task players with fighting back a goblin rebellion. While the creators of Hogwarts Legacy haven't directly addressed J.K. Rowling's divisive comments, game director Alan Tweed did briefly touch on the controversy in a recent IGN interview. I think for us, there are challenges in every game we work on. This game has been no different. When we bump into those challenges, we went back and refocused on the stuff that we really care about. We know our fans fell in love with the Wizarding world, and we believe they'll fall in love with it for the right reasons, he says. We know there's a diverse audience. For us, making sure that the audience who always dream of having this game have the opportunity to feel welcome back. That they have a home, and that is a good place to tell history, though. One of the game's main voice actor, Sebastian Croft, has also addressed the Hogwarts Legacy controversy in a pair of tweets from January 2023. He said he was unaware of J.K. Rowling's views when he was casting the game and expressed support for the trans community, though. The developers of Hogwarts Legacy has stated that J.K. Rowling is not directly involved with the creation of the game. They even address this in an FAQ section of the game's website, which suggests they know this will be a topic of concerns for fans. J.K. Rowling is not involved in the creation of the game, but as creator of the Wizarding World and one of the world's greatest storyteller, her extraordinary body of writing is the foundation of all projects in the Wizarding World, they explain. This is not a new story from J.K. Rowling, however. We have collaborated closely with her team on all aspects of the game to ensure it remains in line with the magic experience fans have expected. Some have pointed out that this adds their reason for continuing supporting Hogwarts Legacy, arguing that a boycott will most likely be harming the game developers who have worked hard to create an experience that fans will love. But while she may not be directly involved in creating the game, it seems pretty safe to assume that J.K. Rowling will be earning a hefty chunk of royalties from sales of the game. She does own the Harry Potter franchise after all. As writer and filmmaker Jesse Earns explained in a GameStop feature on the topic, it's still difficult for any trans person to look at any element of Harry Potter franchise and not see the harm that continues to be perpetrated by the woman who created it, though. This is why many critics are calling for a complete boycott. No matter how removed J.K. Rowling is from the game, she will still profit from its success, and Harry Potter franchise as a whole will continue to rank in the cash for the continued publicity, though. Now, I do want to say, before I get to my point and for my reason, I do want to say this, though. I am not going to come out here and tell you whether you should or should not buy the game. Whether you do want to buy the game, it's your call at the end of the day. It is your money. You can choose to buy this game if you want to. It's sort of the same view I have if, say, like my nephews or niece decide they want to buy a game. Again, it's their money. They can choose to buy it if they want to. So I'm not going to go out and bash those who choose to buy the game, nor I'm going to stand outside a store and protest and say don't buy this or anything like that. I'm not going to pull that kind of shenanigans or anything like that. It is your call at the end of the day. Having said all of that, though, I choose not to buy this game for two reasons. One, I am not a huge Harry Potter fan, so it's not high on my list of games to buy. And two, I simply am not going to buy a game that is supported by a woman who made some of these basically trans comments or anti-gay or anti-abortion comments, to be exact, though. Even though she is not directly involved in it, though, it is true she is going to get royalties out of the game. It's those reasons itself that I simply just cannot, for me, am in a hurry to purchase Hogwarts Legacy at this time. Maybe I'll consider buying it used at some point down the road, maybe when there's a huge price drop or anything like that, but I just don't see myself buying this at the moment, though. It does make me look at basically Harry Potter from a different perspective going forward, much like how I view Ren and Stimpy, though, which, while I consider it a classic cartoon, it becomes really difficult to look at it the same way after hearing how horrible the creator of that Ren and Stimpy was to a lot of folks. Same with Earthworm Jim, about hearing how one of the creators, assuming if I'm hearing this correctly, was very much anti-gay and all. So to me, this is one of the many reasons why I just cannot in good faith go out and buy this game in any shape, in any form. Again, don't get me wrong, it's your call. You could choose to buy it if you want to, and don't see any reason to go after those who choose to buy the game, though. If you want to, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine as well, though. I'm not going to do what we saw with in 2016 with the all-female Ghostbusters, like Ghostbusters Answer the Call, where those who did like the movie were basically called SJW, feminazis, wokes, cancel culture, and all that, or culture wars or anything like that, though. I don't buy those cards. Those who constantly play the woke card on a daily basis, along with SJW, feminazi, cancel culture, critical race theory, are just as bad as those who play the race card in situations that aren't racist, though. But at the same time, I also don't support those who don't like the movie for legitimate reasons, being called racist or sexist either. I don't support that as well. So I'm not going to call anybody anything like that if they choose to buy, whether they choose to or not to buy Hogwarts Legacy and all. Okay, I mean, for me, it's odd. My odds are that probably the game will probably do very well. The publicity will push the game with some sales, like what we saw with Bayonetta 3 with the whole Helen Keller voice acting controversy, to be exact, though. But in either case, though, I don't have any reasons at this time to consider getting Hogwarts Legacy, at least for me. But again, at the end of the day, though, people can make up their own mind and decide whether they want to buy this game or not. So overall, though, it is an interesting controversy surrounding this, though. I don't think the controversy, believe there's a very good chance the controversy will not have an impact in terms of the game's sales or anything like that, but I made a decision to not buy this game at this time for two of the main reasons. One is because of J.K. Rowling's stance, though, but I am not going to go out of my way to bash or go after folks who made a decision if they want to buy Hogwarts Legacy or not. It is your money after all, and ultimately you have to say whether or not you want to buy this game or not, knowing very well that J.K. Rowling will get royalties out of this game and all. Okay, we'll take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to our fourth and final part, and this one has to do with the Nintendo Direct that just happened. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our fourth and final part of our My Two Cent video, and for this one, I'm going to be taking a look at basically this week's Nintendo Direct. Now, there were rumors about whether or not Nintendo was going to do a Direct on February and all, and then when we heard about it, that they were going to do it, they finally dropped it though. And I will say, this was a pretty good Direct, to be exact, especially since we know a lot of the games that are be coming out to the first half or at least the first half of 2023, and there were some pretty good ones, including some pretty good surprises though. I mean, there were some games that were kind of neat, like Pikmin 4 and all, but I'll admit I'm not really a big Pikmin fan though or anything like that, but it's definitely one I will be keeping an eye out and all. So for this one, I'm going to break it down into two parts though. What I liked and what I didn't like, and mixed and not 100% sure or sold on, to be exact. So we'll start off with the first part, which is what I like, and that is probably the big one that got a lot of people's attention, is a remastered version of the original Metroid Prime. Now, this one was rumored for quite some time. There were talks about the game probably coming out last year or anything like that. This was dropped by Jeff Grubbs, who unfortunately got into a little bit of a controversy. Had to apologize after one of the Nintendo Directs did not reveal Wind Waker or Twilight Princess for the Switch as he thought was going to happen. But apparently he got this one right, and judging from what they have shown so far though, it looks really impressive, and it could give us an idea of what Metroid Prime 4 might be when that eventually comes out though, although many are expecting that could be a cross-jam to when they decide to bring over Metroid Prime 2 and 3, which I think they should. Don't get me wrong, I really think they should though, but I'm kind of curious to see how Metroid Prime 3 will play out, since that was originally designed for the Wii U and the nunchucks in mind when that came out back in 2007. But either way, the fact that this got shadow dropped and that a physical version was happening, I mean, yeah, that's really kind of neat though. So yeah, definitely happy to see Metroid Prime Remaster shown off though. We also learned that there were also demos for Octopath Traveler 2 and Seas of Stars, which is certainly nice. I'll be definitely checking out those demos though, especially with Octopath Traveler 2. I love the first one, and supposedly stuff you do in the demo you could take over to the retail version, so that is definitely nice and everything. We learned about Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games coming to the Nintendo Switch, which is definitely long overdue, to be exact though. So this goes with the collection of Sega Genesis, NES, Super NES, and Nintendo 64. So really nice to see a lot of these Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games though. I'm kind of curious to see if we'll see more Game Boy and Game Boy Advance's games make it onto the Surface and all, but certainly it's nice though. And I'm kind of curious if we could see something like, say, Game Gear make its way over to the Nintendo Switch's service though. We also saw another trailer for Bayonetta Origins, Cereza, and the Lost Demon. The game looks really nice though. I will say this about it: if Bayonetta is Platinum's Devil May Cry, then I consider Bayonetta Origins, Cereza, and the Lost Demons basically Platinum's Okami and all. So I'm curious to see how this one is going to play. It does look a little different than, say, the Bayonetta franchise in general, but I'm very curious to see how this one's playing out though. We also learned about several expansion packs for Splatoon 3, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and Fire Emblem Engage though. Some of these we'll consider to have story content as well, so that's definitely nice for those, especially for those who bought the season pass though. Splatoon 3 one was kind of interesting because one went back to Ingopolis that was in the original Splatoon when that was released back on the Wii U, to what looked like a full white kind of interesting scene that might be a clue about what that might be. It could be the single player content similar to what excuse me, we saw with Splatoon 2 and all, so I'm kind of curious about that. As for Fire Emblem Engage, we're going to get, looks like, more rings and all, and again, more story content, so that certainly is nice for the several expansion packs that they announced though. Baten Kaitos 1-2 HD Remastered, that is certainly nice. I'm glad those games are coming to the Nintendo Switch. Who knows how well those games will do. Maybe this could open the door for a Baten Kaitos 3 if that ever happens. That would certainly be nice though. I mean, it may not be, you know, the Xeno Saga series or anything coming to the Nintendo Switch, but this is still good nevertheless. I wouldn't mind if that comes to the Nintendo Switch, or the original Dot Hack series. That would certainly be nice. But in either case though, it's nice to see these, along with Metroid Prime, the original GameCube games, make their way over to the Nintendo Switch and all. We saw a second trailer for The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Definitely look hyped and looking forward to that one when that comes out in May. And we finally got a release date for Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp though, which will be coming out on April 21st. For those who may or may not be familiar though, last year Advance Wars Reboot Camp 1 and 2 was originally supposed to come out, but Nintendo made the decision to delay this because this happened during when Russia began its invasion of Ukraine though, and there were concerns about releasing the game, and some of it because of the sensitivity at the time. And many kind of questioned whether this game will ever be released though, because at the time, no one knew exactly how the war between Ukraine and Russia was going to play out, and we still don't know how it's going to continue to play out. So I figured it sounds like Nintendo decided, you know what, we might just go ahead and just release the game. And obviously, it's being released on April 21st, barring any major event that happens or anything, or any major delay. So great that we're finally getting this game after all. As far as what I didn't like, or I'm kind of mixed or not sure, this one has to do with Samos de Amigo Party Central though. Now, judging from what they showed, the game didn't look bad or anything like that, but to me, I'm not really a big Samos de Amigo, even though I've heard of the series though. It was on the Sega Dreamcast, and it also made its way over to the Nintendo Wii and all. So while it's certainly nice to see another entry though, it certainly doesn't, I'm not really a huge fan of the series. Plus, judging from what they showed so far, it looks like you'll be using the Joy-Cons, which certainly isn't bad, but I do kind of wonder how this is going to be for those who have a Switch Lite. I mean, is it going to be similar to what we saw with, fitness boxing and all that. I mean, really, as that game requires the Joy-Cons to use, and if you don't have the Joy-Cons, you're not going to be able to play it or anything like that. So I'm kind of curious to see how that's going to play out, though. But, I mean, for those who are Sambo de Amigos fans, that's fine. I'm not one of those folks. But who knows? Maybe this could open the doors to a Skies of Arcadia remaster or another entry. I know a lot of people would like to see that, though. The next one has to do with the fact it has to do with Metroid Prime Remaster, and this has to do with the physical version. While it's certainly nice we are getting a physical version of the game, though, sadly, we have to those who are wanting to get the physical version are going to have to wait a little bit longer, as that will come out on February 22nd, though. So not long, but a little bit annoying, though, to see that compared to the fact the game is right now shadow dropped on the Nintendo eShop. And also, it is a little bit unfortunate we have to wait wait a little bit longer for the physical version of Metroid Prime Remaster. The next one is, unfortunately, no Metroid Prime 4 was shown here. This was before the Direct happened, though. There was build-up of the possibility of Metroid Prime 4 showing up, to be exact, though. And, well, there were some people who claimed they saw something on, like Best Buy or Amazon or anything like that, and they had to delete it. Many speculate this could be a sign that they could show off Metroid Prime 4, though. I would say, and unfortunately that did not happen. So who knows how long we're going to have to wait for Metroid Prime 4 to be exact, though. So sadly they didn't show that off, though. But hey, Metroid Prime Remaster kind of makes up for it, though. And like I said, hopefully Metroid Prime 2 and 3 are not far behind, though. The next one has to do with the Game Boy and Game Boy Advance. It's not that I'm against these games coming to the Nintendo Switch. It's just I think it's sort of a odd choice of some of their decisions. Like, for example, I like Super Mario Land 2 6 Golden Coins. I remember playing that on the original Game Boy and all. But I do question why they decided to do that as their first release for Game Boy games coming to the Nintendo Switch, and why not the original Super Mario Land that was released back in the 80s for the Game Boy, or why not if you're going to bring Super Mario Land 2, why not Wario Land Super Mario Land 3? I mean, you have Wario Land 3 in there, but you don't have Wario Land 2 or Wario Land Super Mario Land 3, or even Wario Land 4 on the Game Boy Advance side. So there's just some questionable decisions on the type of the first batch of games that Nintendo has decided to bring over to the Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games over to the Nintendo Switch. I'm sure over time we'll see this increase, though, but still, it's an odd choice of some of the choices they made for the games, though. The next one, and this one has to do depending on your preference and taste, depending on if you're into this genre, and that is Tron Identity and all. And while it's nice to see that Tron is getting some love, I do like the Tron series, though, the original movie and Tron Legacy, though, and hopefully we'll see a Tron 3 and everything like that, though. It's sort of, this one is more of on the point and click side of the thing, and if you're into those type of games, you'll probably like Tron Identity, though, but if not, this may not appeal to you. Honestly, I think like some sort of like an RPG or an action RPG could work in the Tron universe if it's done right or anything like that, but again, this one's more towards the point and click and not really towards basically for those who are hoping for it, those who are not into those type of games or anything like that. And last but not least, it has to do with the one called Fashion Dreamer from Xseed, though. Just to be clear, though, based on what they showed with that game, though, that obviously I'm not the target demographic for this one. I mean, that's great for those who are into those kind of games, though, so it's obviously clear this one's aimed towards, at least based on what they showed, towards little girls and everything like that. And again, that's fine if you like those type of games. It's not for me. So, but again, like I said, I'm not the target demographic, though. But overall, I would say this was a pretty good Direct, though. I liked some of the stuff that was announced and everything like that. The Metroid Prime Remaster was certainly the big one. Game Boy and Game Boy Advance. And to me, Baten Kaitos 1 and 2 HD Remastered, though, were probably the big ones, though, along with the second trailer for The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, despite reports coming out that that game might is going to be $70, and it certainly brings up a debate about making those games very expensive, though, although Nintendo is claiming those are going to be on a case-by-case basis. Whether that's true or not remains to be seen, but yeah, there were a lot of pretty good things that they showed up, though. Yes, there were some I'm kind of mixed of, like no Metroid Prime 4 and odd choices for Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games, but in either case, this was still a very good direct overall, though. I think it was very neat and everything like that, though. So I like what they showed. I like they had some of the demos and everything like that. It'll be very interesting to see if Nintendo does a direct during E3 this year, whether they show up for it or not, though. So either way, I definitely enjoyed this Nintendo Direct. Okay, this concludes this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about this with a whole lot of these live services games shutting down? Do you think this is an indication that the live service bubble has burst in any way, or do you think that this is okay? Live service games are not going away or anything like that? What do you think about Nintendo's financial reports? Are you surprised to see it? The Switch now has overtaken the Game Boy and the PS4 in any way, though? Do you think this is an indication that Nintendo is going to delay announcing a successor for the Switch, or do you think a successor for the Switch is going to come sooner than what people thought? What do you think about this whole controversy surrounding Hogwarts Legacy and all? Do you think people are blowing it way out of proportion? Do you think it's legitimate in any way? Has this prevent you from buying Hogwarts Legacy, or are you, despite the controversy, you're going to move ahead and purchase the game anyway? And what are your thoughts about the Nintendo Direct, though? Did you like what Nintendo showed during the Direct? Did you didn't? Were you happy about Metroid Prime Remaster or Game Boy Advance's games coming to the Nintendo Switch, or some of the expansion packs for Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Splatoon 3, and Fire Emblem Engage? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you do like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I will appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You could do it through PayPal me or Patreon. Links will be in the description, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, wish you all a good day then. Bye!